But Luke, you were missed at the fights last night at Lenovo Center. Michael Buffer came out. They rolled the Evander Holyfield video at one point because we had a whole bunch of misconducts, and I believe Todd Reardon is once again coaching the Capitals, complaining about the way the Hurricanes played.
Out there causing trouble again. 7 years later, whatever it is. No, I mean, it's just, everyone wants to set a tone because, the way the bracket works out, they play in the second round and all that. But, that's, to me, that's not the Galaxy brain. I mean, I have all of my chips, every single thing on a second round. The Hurricanes get past the Devils. Second round, Hurricanes Habs series. And for anyone who's been around long enough to remember what those are like, everything goes to 11. Every hit, every penalty, every incident, there's some sort of made-up controversy every 30 seconds. Most people, the only thing they know about Montreal is that there would be rumors about the Hurricanes moving every time the Canadiens showed up in town for 10 years. But the reality is there's no better place to be in the playoffs because it's so intense.
Yeah.
And it's so, anyway, as far, Caps and Canes can go and, Capitals, Tom Wilson can go pick a fight with a 5'7" guy all he wants, but it's going to be moot when the Canadiens upset the Great Eight in the first round.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of this season I think they've put kind of put it behind them in terms of the Ovechkin chase. I think it's a really good team, but at some point the really good team from the regular season, and the Hurricanes have had to deal with this, although they have advanced in every playoff since Rod Brind'amour has been here. Sometimes that magic just kind of goes away when you get to the playoffs. I have no idea what's going to happen in the postseason. I do think this Washington team is good. They've been very good. They're very big, but they did not intimidate Carolina last night, and I think they tried to bully the Hurricanes, and it didn't work.
Yeah, they're suspect, but, you got to give them credit for what they've done in the games they've won and then turn around and see if they can do it in the playoffs. I mean, obviously that they were embarrassed last year, so they should have learned from that theoretically. But, I think, the bigger arc for me from last night, the bigger point to make last night is what a world we're living in 2025 where the Hurricanes clinching a playoff spot it's not even a blip on the radar. It's not even news.
Right.
It's just like, oh, yeah, that happened. Like, I remember in 2019 when they got back in, I was in Colombia with Zion and, my phone's blowing up and all that kind of, it's just such a different standard now. It's just the expectations are completely different, and they should be for this team because It's a good team. And it's been built over a period of years and changed and tweaked. And, I think what we've seen since the trade deadline, two things. One, they got the guy they really needed, and that was Marko Jankkinen, who's the power forward they always needed.
Yeah.
And a hell of a lot better than that Finnish lemon they tried to get. And number two is when your goalies play well, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And, the goaltending has been, for the most part, over the last month, pretty above average to good. And when that happens, it gives you a chance to win a lot of games, and they have. So, the guys they got at the trade deadline, they may not have been the big name that they wanted, but I think maybe they got the players they needed.
Yeah, they get the players that fit. And I joked about a week or so ago that we're not giving Eric Tulsky enough credit for sneaking in Taylor Hall under the auspices of it being a Mikko Rantanen acquisition. That was just the vehicle through which to acquire 2 more first-round picks. The guy they really wanted was Taylor Hall, who has seemed to fix the power play because the power play now has 7 goals in its last 5 games. Also, and I want to get to Duke and Houston in our allotted time, Luke DeCock of the News and Observer. But the truth of the matter is that for some time now, Jackson Blake's been one of their best players, and he continues to get better, and now there's some production attached to it because there really wasn't a lot of production for 2 months, but he has been playing well, and now he's getting rewarded.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. When you look at the big picture, obviously you need your first-round picks to play like first-round picks, and you need to hit on some guys in the second, third, and fourth round who turn out to be first-round caliber players. But you also got to win on some you didn't think you were going to win on. You go back to the 02-06 Hurricanes teams, They had a bunch of fourth, fifth, sixth round guys who became absolute core players. So you need those too. You need the Jackson Blakes. And obviously their drafting philosophy is different now than it was then. But, we're going to take a bunch of smaller, high-skill guys and hope a couple pan out. And certainly with Jackson Blake, one did. The other guy he's bigger. They drafted the 5'9" defenseman, Joel Nystrom, who's gonna be here shortly. He's over 6 feet now. So sometimes you just get lucky. You draft a skilled little guy and he grows. Other times you draft a skilled little guy like Jackson Blake, and it turns out, hey, he can do this. He fits, and you put him with the right players, and he can finish chances. So they've had a lot of things go wrong this year. We don't need to enumerate all of them, but look, they've gotten some breaks too, and you need to be in this thing, and they have.
Luke DeCock of the News and Observer is joining us here. The only pushback I will say, I think it is a big deal that they have made. Not that they made the playoffs. We're not celebrating that they made the playoffs. I do think that for the 7th straight year, not only to make the playoffs for 7 straight years, but in the last 5, basically to qualify with honors. Right now, they're the 5th best team in the league based on points, and that is the lowest in the last 5 years. It's been 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, and now 5th over the last 5 years. So they're not just squeaking in, they're getting in early, and I don't think enough has been made of that because it ain't easy to make the playoffs. Boston isn't going to make the playoffs. The Rangers are at best, say 40% to make the playoffs with all, with their roster and their goaltending. So it is not easy to make it. I don't think enough has been made about how hard it generally is. Let me get to the Blue Devils who are with you. They followed you to San Antonio, Luke. How much does this team remind you of the 0-1 team because I think the mindset for me is the same as that 0-1 team, is that they are cutthroat. They are like killers when they think that they've got you.
Yeah, I don't know. You can make that argument. To me, this team is kind of sui generis in that it's sort of something of itself. That is a team that could only have been created in this era. I don't know that it bears comparisons that well to other teams because it's a different kind of roster. It's a different kind of makeup. These are different kind of kids. But that said, I don't think we can say enough about, the hard truths that came up last spring where a guy like Tyrese Proctor is going to stay and Jeremy Roach and Mark Mitchell are out and bringing in the transfers. Deion James was not a guy a lot of teams were falling over themselves to add.
Yeah.
But you spot the guys who can help you, and you bring in a guy like Mason Gillis who's just cold. And even when he doesn't play, he has that intimidation on the bench. And then a guy like Malik Brown who just wanted to be on a winner. And that's what he thought he was going to get at Syracuse and didn't. And is a winner, is a guy who does a lot of different little things to help you win. So to me, it's hard to draw comparisons to past teams because the star power is so young and the leadership is so old and not a lot of it has grown up within the program other than Proctor. But all that being said, it's an incredible mix. And, the couple things that have really distinguished it are getting better over the course of the season, tweaking the rotation, and then having guys who haven't played a lot come in and be able to contribute when needed. So you saw that. We've seen that with Patrick Ngamba down the stretch here. Isaiah Evans has had some good and bad minutes, but his good minutes have been really good. And this was a guy who was, in the where are they now file for a good chunk of the season. Everyone's like, well, he's transferring, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe not. He's proven that he can be a useful sort of 2-3 on this team. He can defend. He can score. He's just got to do it with more consistency. So, there's been some sort of cameos and adjustments and things like that have distinguished this team maybe from other teams that had a veteran core, battle hardened, receipts, scores to settle. To me, this is a team that's a little more of a, melting pot of different talents and experience and things like that. That has enabled Duke to sort of adapt and get better over the course of the season.
Yeah, Mike Krzyzewski always liked to say everybody runs their own race, and there are a whole lot of different races being run with these guys.
It's their moment, Adam. It's their moment. I'm just happy to be there with them in their moment.
Do you think I'm going to you? I'm giving you a question. If you want to ask it to John Shire at some point, that's fine. But at some point after this is all over, I'm going to talk to John, and I'm going to ask him if he thinks as a coach or if he thinks as a player, because he's not that far removed from playing. He played. I think his last year was 2014. That's not that long ago. I'm just curious how he thinks the game. Does he think it as a coach or a player? Because I don't know. It just struck me as I was watching them in the press conference after winning the East Regional in Newark, and he's up on the dais, and he's got the T-shirt on and the hat on backwards, and I could have sworn he was a player. It just struck me. I'm curious how he thinks about it.
I mean, he's very much a coach, and he's had, really since Krzyzewski announced he was stepping down, and John had sort of his 1-year internship. He's had a lot of time to think about it and make that transition. His leadership this year has been as a coach. Now, does he relate to the players a little bit better? Maybe because he's, younger and a younger guy, possibly. But I think when you look at everything he's done, the way they've navigated the midseason loss of Jay Lucas, which they never saw coming, all of that, I think you have to look at it and say, no, this is a guy who's a coach, that he's grown into the role. I mean, you go back to the Virginia game in his first year, the word around the league was he wasn't tough enough to stand up for his guys. He was soft, and he changed that. That was sort of I wouldn't say the word around the league, that was a criticism.
Right.
He's too nice. He's too nice. Well, he changed that. And over the last 3 years, he's gotten tougher and more calculated and made harder decisions. That's all part of his evolution as a coach. And I think he's probably a far better coach in year 3 than anyone thought he would be. Chris Carroll was telling us in Charlotte, I knew he was going to be good. I didn't know he'd be this good this soon. And I certainly didn't think it was going to be at Duke. But he's really stepped into, arguably one of the most difficult jobs anyone could have, which is following Mike Krzyzewski as a former player and trying to do things your own way, not just saying we're going to do it the way the old man did it, but saying this is my program. There are changes I want to make. We're going to have a general manager. We're going to embrace, John Shire, you go back 10 years on K's staff, was always the one who most embraced the concept of analytics. He was always the most forward thinking of any of those guys once he got into coaching. I mean, he was on Jordan Sperber's podcast, and before COVID. Like, this is a guy who was very, very in touch with sort of that aspect of the game, the stuff that, everyone's talking about Florida doing now. So he's always been his own sort of coach, and we've seen that from him at Duke over the last couple of years. But I do think the evolution this year, as I wrote about after they won in Newark, the decisions they made after Dallas, the way they built around Cooper Flagg, the guys I just think it's all very deliberate and calculated. And I think you can really see the structure of that plan both then and now, and that's a sign to me of good leadership.
Luke DeCock, great leadership. News and Observer at Luke DeCock on Blue Sky. I thank you very much for being on Blue Sky with me. There's not a lot of us posting stuff out there. We got to get more of us out there. Enjoy San Antonio. For my money, the best Final Four city that there is. They should just keep it there. Maybe alternate between San Antonio and Indianapolis. I'd be good with that. Good.
All right, I got to run, Adam.
Take care, Luke DeCock. Yeah, I told you we had a window. We had a window to get it all in.